So, before the draft tonight, we're going to be talking a little bit about the winners and losers of the free agency period. And as of right now, it does not seem like it doesn't seem in general like there's going to be too many major signings. I'm working off the assumption that the Indiana Fever are going to either not sign anyone or sign Maisha Hines-Allen. Yeah, we're going to talk. First of all, I'm going to talk about the losers of free agency. And I think it's a very difficult one when we're talking about certain teams as the losers of free agency when they've just decided that they want to tank. Like I'm not considering the Seattle Storm a loser of free agency. I'm not. The Seattle Storm, as much as when you look at their roster, they've signed Heidemann, they've signed Jade Melbourne. These are players that are not going to get them many wins because they're obviously trying to lose for 2 years to get Sarah Strong. They're trying to be up in this year's draft. They've got Mag Begor and the biggest contract in WNBA history, which is mad. So, if they aren't tanking, I could call them losers. Another team that I would call the losers of free agency, I personally think that the Toronto Tempo are one of the losers of free agency because as much as this team paid Marina Mabrey a max, they're paying Brittany Sykes a max. Neither of them are good enough to be worth a max. Not only that, they're getting Shakira Austin on a 3-year max. This is a team that's not going to be good enough to make the playoffs and not going to be bad enough to get a high draft pick for multiple years. And they don't have the Golden State factor where you're going to convince big free agents to go to the Bay Area. This is a team that is a 16 and 28 team, is going to get the 6th pick in the WNBA draft next year and is going nowhere. They're not the Valks. They're nowhere near as good as the Valks. And they're not bad enough. They're not one of the worst teams in the league, which is going to be a bit of a problem. And I would say the last absolute losers of free agency, and again, there's another loser, potentially losing Shakira Austin, but it is the Washington Mystics. And the reason why the Washington Mystics are losers in free agency is because they have had to, because the Sky have done so well, that because of the pick swap situation not going to convey, they need to lose a bunch of games to get a good draft pick in 2027. I think they thought they were in the Juju sweepstakes and they could go for the playoffs. However, that's not the case anymore because the Sky are good. So the Mystics, through no fault of their own, have had to completely change the direction. And I would say the last loser of free agency is the Dallas Wings. The Dallas Wings are really screwed. They are tied down. So Paige Bueckers, they're not going to be able to afford Paige Bueckers' epic extension early. They're not going to be able to afford it. They've given Alana Smith a max contract. Not worth it. Good player, not worth it. They have given they have signed Cheyenne Sellers, who's not going to make their team. They've given Arike a max contract. I don't think Arike is worth it. They've backed themselves into a corner and they have to run a 3-guard lineup of AZ, Paige, and Arike, where Paige has to guard small forwards, where none of them can really play defense. You've got nobody there in that lineup that's going to be guarding fast guards. It's not even fast guards, guarding proper wings. They've put together a team that's better than last year's team, absolutely, but it's not enough better than last year's team. Alana Smith is an upgrade on Geisel Suter, but not this absolutely monumental upgrade. Same with Jess Shepard over Maisha Hines-Allen. This is a competent team. It is a absolutely competent team. The problem is that you've got Jess Shepard making $1 million for 3 years. She might be 3 years, and then same with Alana Smith. And everyone's like, oh, you can trade contracts. You do realize you have to give up assets to trade bad contracts, right? You have to give up assets to trade bad contracts. And they've already signed multiple bad contracts. They lost Haley Jones in the expansion draft. They're going to have to pay Maddie Segrist next year, which they can't afford. They realistically can't afford to pay Maddie Segrist next year or as an RFA. So they're probably going to lose Maddie next year. They probably can't afford to pay Leah Rue because she's making the minimum. They can't afford to pay her. They're paying a whack the least she's ever going to make. So you're coming into next year not being able to afford half the players in your team because you've signed Jess Shepard, Alana Smith, and Arike to long-term maxes. So they put together a good team this year, but at what cost? I mean it, at what cost? I will call the Dallas Wings ironically, the biggest loser of free agency. It's a team that could have built slow. They could have built slow, but they're trying to build fast, and all they're going to do is sit in mediocrity for the foreseeable future. My neutral of free agency. My neutrals. Like, I think Portland is just complete neutral. Like, I don't think Portland are going to win many games. I think the Mercury are neutral because basically they replaced Satu with Ayayi, and I actually don't think that's really going to affect the team that much in a negative way, losing Satu. And another I'm going to call neutral in free agency is the Minnesota Lynx. And why am I calling the Minnesota Lynx a neutral when they lost half their team? Because what they have done is they're now in a situation where they're still going to be really competitive. They couldn't afford to pay players lower. Players aren't going to take pay cuts to go to Minnesota. But fee's going to be there. Natasha Howard is on a not terrible deal. They still have Kosu, who I think Kosu's going to step up big time this season. Dorka Juhas is a starter. They're bringing her back. I think Emma Chekova is a really good signing. They signed a couple of players from overseas, and I think they're going to draft really well with the number 2 pick. So I can't say it's more than neutral because, yes, they did lose 3 key players. They lost 3 absolutely key players. And 4, if you can't hide them, 4 key players. I think their replacements were as good as they could get. And because I'm not going to say they're losers of free agency when players just became too expensive for them to afford. Because their whole starting 5 got a max. And now another neutral is the Indiana Fever. The Indiana Fever, who have not signed anybody yet, by the way, none of their contracts have been signed, is a neutral. They kept Sophie. They kept Kelsey. Like, this Indiana Fever team is I'm going to call them a puncher's chance. That is what I will say with the Indiana Fever. It's not over. I'm not out here saying that the Indiana Fever can't win the title. What I am saying is they only have a puncher's chance. This is not a great basketball team. This is a okay team. This is an okay team. This is if all goes right, a 3rd seed. If all goes wrong, a 6th or 7th seed. This is this is a above average basketball team in the WNBA. And like, they are in the playoffs. If they get hot at the right time, they might be able to make a playoff run. But the expectation of them losing in the semifinal again, for me, is probably accurate. I think they win around the playoffs and they lose. The good thing is that while other teams have tied themselves down to long-term deals and have no flexibility, the Indiana Fever have at least put out a competitive squad with flexibility. And now I'm going to talk about the winners of free agency. And the first winner is the Chicago Sky. The Chicago Sky have built a really, really solid team here. I don't know if the likes of Hailey Van Lith and Maddie Westbeld even make the roster when it's all said and done. I'm very confused why they protected them, because I still don't know if they make the roster. That being said, like, trading Ariel Atkins for Rukia was a good trade. Bringing back Sloot is good, considering she's probably on a cheap. Hazare was a great pickup, a better fit on the court than Angel Reese with Camila Cardoso. Cardoso's back. An overpay for JC Sheldon, but you've got a good defender who's versatile and a 50, 40, 90 player. Elite defender on a cheap and Carrington, Dejanay Carrington. Liz Williams, a great backup, and Skylar Diggins for under $1 million was unbelievable. The Chicago Sky should be a playoff team, and nobody thought they were going to be that 4 days ago. So, yeah, Sky should be a playoff team, for being honest. I'm going to call the Aces a winner. The Aces are able to run it back. They're just bringing everybody back, and they won a championship. So I'm not going to... And they got Steph Talbot, I guess. So I'm not going to go and call them a loser. Same with the Golden State Valkyries. When you bring back an exact team that did okay in the playoffs, even gave Minnesota a little bit of a scare in round 1 of the playoffs, and you have an extra year of experience, and you add in Jose Jacite, even though you lose Carla late, Jacite is better. not only that, you go and like you go and add in Gabby Williams. You have to be in the winners. The LA Sparks are a team that a lot of people are calling winners. I don't know about this one. I think they got old. I think they got really, really old. I think they shrunk their title window. I don't know even how many minutes Brink plays on this team. I think they shrunk their title window big time, and I don't see them winning a title this year. Nor do I see them having anything in the future. I think they're this year's Seattle Storm. But the big winners of free agency are the Avengers. The Avengers. We're not going to call them anything else. It is the Avengers. They somehow signed Beck Allen to $350K a year. Annalise Maley might not make the team, but she's just after scoring 65 points in a game in Australia. They are bringing over Raquel Carrera for the first time. They are bringing over Pauline Astier for the first time, 2 rotational pieces on minimums. They are bringing over like Phoebish is coming back, Stewie's there, Sabrina's there, John Quell's there. Oh, and they added Satu, let's not forget that. And then Beck Allen on a bargain deal. It is crazy. And not only that, like, they're still in talks. The Liberty are still in talks for other players. It's not even the Liberty's roster isn't even over yet. It is going to be scary. Oh, Hanju's probably coming back. It's going to be scary. It is going to be scary. So yes, the Liberty are the biggest winners of free agency. So that's the video. See you guys.